Okay, my beautiful friends, if we could really, like Michael says, can we extract ourselves from hell for a few minutes that we're in heaven? And this is from Reb Nachman. Everybody knows Reb Nachman was the great-grandson of the Holy Baal Shem. The Holy Baal Shem had two children, Herschele, a son, and Udele, his daughter. Everybody knows Udele, his daughter, was also a Rebbe. People would ask her for blessing, people would ask for advice. She was like Mamash a Rebbe. Udele had a daughter, was named Fegele. And Fegele was called Fegele the prophetess. She was Mamash. She had clear sight from one corner of the world to the other. And she had a son, Reb Nachman. And just to warm our hearts, I want to tell you the story, which is really so very special, beautiful. A young man wishing everybody to find their soulmate. A person came to the Holy Baal Shem, and he says, I'm looking for my soulmate desperately. Shem says, wait. Stay in Mezhebush. It's cooking, wait. A few weeks later, a young lady came and she says, I'm so desperate for my soulmate. I don't want to marry an ordinary person. I'm looking for somebody special. Shem says, wait. Okay, to make it very short, the Baal Shem Tov said to this young man who asked him, his name was Nachman. So he says to him, I found your soulmate. So the Baal Shem Tov made the wedding, and it was unbelievable. Just keep your heart open. And the Baal Shem Tov said to this young lady, which name I forgot, he said to her, whenever you need anything, you can always ask me. Okay, a few weeks after the wedding, the Baal Shem Tov sees that she is half her size. She's very sad. The Baal Shem Tov says, why are you so sad? She said, tell you the truth, my husband, I know he loves me, but we have never been together yet. After the chuppah, he went back to the synagogue to learn. He comes back every afternoon, and when we sit together, it's so beautiful. I know he loves me, and I love him, but he never stays more than a few minutes. But Shem Tov says, I'll talk to him. He calls in Nachman, he says, why aren't you with your wife? He says, Rebbe, you're asking me? You know yourself why. Because I know by clear prophecy that my wife, God forbid, never will die in childbirth. wanted to die. Gewalt, right? So the Holy Baal Shem Tov calls his wife and he says, you know, your husband is not home because he loves you so much. You're a little girl, he wants you to live longer. She says, tell my husband, I don't care. I just want to be with him. So he moved in home. Then a baby was born. Open your heart. When the baby was born, his mother said to God, Master of the world, I cannot believe that you should be so cruel. I carried this baby for 9 months, and now, when it's coming out, I'll die. Give me 4 weeks. She lived 4 more weeks, and she called this baby Simcha, because it was so sad. Wait. After that, this Reb Nachman came with the baby to the Holy Baal Shem and says, Mazel Tov, the baby was born. He says, and my wife asked to live 4 weeks, to be with the baby for 4 weeks. And this is a classic teaching from the Baal Shem. The Holy Baal Shem Tov says, I. Do you know at that moment when a baby is born, all the gates of heaven are open? Why didn't she ask to live forever? Okay, this is one of the deepest Torahs of Reb Nachman. We begin learning it on Shabbos. This month we are wiping out Amalek. Amalek is the arch-enemy of Israel. Amalek is the arch-enemy of every human being, especially of us Jews. Who is he? We're not talking now about physically a little brother Amalek running around. We're talking about Amalek, right? So everybody has Torahs. This is one of the Torahs of Reb Nachman. Amalek is the one who comes to you and tells you, you can't do it. You're not strong enough to do it. Imagine one day I wake up, Mama should say, Master of the world, from now on, Mama, I want to serve you. So brother Amalek comes, a little voice, a little inside says, whom are you kidding? I know you. You're a failure. You were a failure so far. I know you'll do it maybe for 3 days and then it's over. I want you to know something awesome. I could swear that 90% of marriages who end up in divorce. During the chuppah, during the ceremony, some people were standing there, Amalek, and they were saying to each other, I'd love to see how long this lasts. Shooting arrows. You know what the world is doing to us now in Israel? And I don't want to talk politics. The world wants to tell us it won't last. It won't last. Do you know how many young people want to do something and nobody gives them courage? Reb Nachman says this is the worst enemy. And you know, we always think a good friend is somebody who invites us for gefilte fish. Gefilte fish I can buy myself. Sadly enough, most friends we have are our worst enemies. Reb Nachman says it 1,000 times. Your enemies are not your enemies. They're cute and sweet. Your enemies are your friends who tell you that you won't be able to do it because they know you so well. Think they know you. So I want you to know, Reb Nachman says, there are 2 things a person has to be aware of. You can always begin, but even more so, you also have the strength to finish it, really, to the end. And you see, It takes a lot of courage to begin. But this is not the deepest courage we need. The deepest courage we need is really holding out. You know what holding out is? Not that I'm successful from beginning to end. That I'm a failure every day. But I'm holding out. Holding out. This is the deepest. You know, whatever you think of people, that's what you think of God. Whatever you think of God, that's what you think of people. You know what Amalek is telling us? Face it. You really think one day the world will be paradise, the world will be good? Look, God is trying for so many thousands of years, it doesn't work. Amalek is telling me the same thing about God also. About the whole world. Forget it. Don't waste your time, it won't happen. So you know what we're doing on Purim? We celebrate that it will happen. And on Purim we are living on the level that it happened already. On Purim there is no Haman. On Purim, it's mamish. Living in another world. I don't know how many of you ever had the privilege really having a real Purim. You know, some people think you eat to home and taschen and you know what Purim is. I want you to know something. Our holy rabbis teach us, this is the deepest. The Gemara says, Yom Kippurim, that Yom Kippur is a little bit like Purim, but not really. On Yom Kippur, I'm standing before God and I'm telling God all my failures and ask for forgiveness. That's very nice. This is not the highest. Because who gave you the right to say something bad about yourself? In a certain deep way, this is Amalek is still hanging around there. On Purim, when I wipe out Amalek, I'm not saying anything bad about myself. And now listen to this. We are sending gifts to each other, not face to face. Why not face to face? I want you to open your heart. You know what I'm doing with my failures? I'm hiding them. I don't want you to know about them. When I'm successful, I can tell you. When I'm bankrupt, hard for me to admit it, right? I'm not calling myself, oh, thank God, another failure. Mazel tov, Baruch Hashem, I failed again. You know what you're sending gifts? I'm sending gifts to let you know, even that part which you're hiding from me, I give you strength. I'm giving you strength to that part which you think you have to hide. It's okay because that's the way God wants the world to be. You only learn by mistakes. And here, I want you to open your heart in the deepest way. There is two kinds of learning in the world. There is learning 1 and 1 is 2, right? If you're not a complete idiot, 1 and 1, you take your 2 fingers, 1 and 1 is 2, right? Or take your toes, whatever's more available. Unless you have socks on, right? See, that's why the hippies were such good mathematicians. They could count on there, and they had always the toes available. Mazel tov. Anyway, but then there's a different kind of learning. Do you know something? I'm getting married, and I buy a book on marriage. It was $5.95 secondhand. So I'm learning. And I know every word in the book. Do I know how to do it? No. Because the real things in life, you only learn by mistake. And you see, when you fail, you make mistakes. This is the deepest teaching. This is the deepest process of learning. I want you to know when you study the Talmud and you say you understand it, you're out. If God blesses you, you're on the level that you don't understand, you're on the way to learn it. I'll tell you something very deep. I'm sure some of you remember, Rabbi must remember it from me, I said it 1,000 times. I'm sitting on the subway in New York, going to Borough Park. How far can you go? Next to me is this absolute beautiful girl, and Mamash, I could swear she's my soulmate. I ask her, what's your name? Chanele. Take up my pen fast. Chanele. What's your number? 435-6611. Gewalt. Number in Borough Park, you write it down. Next day I call her up, take her out. 4 weeks later we're married. Does it blow your mind? No. The craziest thing, I'm sitting next to this girl. I don't have a pen, I don't have paper. And she's leaving the next stop. She says to me, 435-6611. Going out from the subway, says 435. But till I got home, I don't know anymore if it's 6611 or if it's 1166, and maybe it's 4356. Do you know something? For 2,000 years, I dial every combination. And one day, Gewalt, she's on the phone. Do you know how deep this is? So will you tell me now it's the same marriage, like if I would have had the pen and the paper in my hand now? Something else. And here I want you to open your hearts in the deepest way. Mount Sinai is the straight teaching. 4 corner tzitzis, don't eat ham. Everything is straight learning. Yerushalayim is a city of mistakes. Everything is mistakes. You know what David Amalek is, the one who built Yerushalayim? David Amalek is the master of mistakes. David Amalek always made mistakes. But you know what he did? He never gave up. David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kaim. He lives forever. There is no mistake in the world big enough for him to give up. Why is right after Shabbos we have the feast of King David? Because right after the week I know I'm going to make 2 million mistakes this week. So King David gives me strength. So what? So you made a mistake. So what? So now listen to me, friends. The learning of mistakes doesn't come from your head. It's a different kind of learning. You know, Purim, I'm not even learning. I'm so busy sending out gifts. God bless you. I'm so busy doing all kinds of things. Purim, I'm drunk. You know what drunk is? I'm learning beyond my head, beyond everything in the world. And here I want you to know, Purim is the utmost fixing of the tree of knowledge. What's the tree of knowledge? I know it. This is good and this is bad. What's the tree of life? Has nothing to do with right or wrong, good or bad. Listen to me, I meet this girl, Chanele, and the question, should I marry her? Someone says to me, yeah, she's a good girl. The question is not if she is good or bad. The question is she my soulmate? The tree of knowledge doesn't know that. The tree of knowledge knows only it's good or bad. It's holy or unholy. And here I want you to open your heart. Because what's wrong with the tree of knowledge? Don't you have to know what's right and what's wrong? This is the deepest Torah in the world. Before Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, they were connected to the highest place in heaven. And their knowledge of good and bad didn't come from their head. so much deeper. So much deeper. It was like from beyond. When they ate from the tree of knowledge, their knowledge of good and evil became knowledge. I waited in Reader's Digest. I picked it up in the yellow pages. Outside stuff, head stuff. So take the word. They don't know they shouldn't kill. They'll still kill, right? You think knowledge makes a better person out of me? No. But that knowledge from above, if I'm connected to the highest place in heaven, if this kind of light shines into me, this gets to my bones. Mamish reaches me in the deepest depths. You know, friends, sometimes you learn something and you know it, but it doesn't touch you. And then sometimes you hear one word and it reaches you in the deepest depths. Anything which does not touch you is from the tree of knowledge, so you know it, Mazel Tov. If you learn something, what was the whole thing of all the big Rebbes, right? Big Rebbes, God. Every word they uttered came from the tree of life. I have to tell you something awesome. You know the two words, chen v'chesed, grace and love. So I'm saying it, so what? Nothing happens. I want you to know when I was, I don't know what it was, the Heilige Bova Rebbe came to America. The first Rebbe who came over after the war. The Rebbe who, not only he lived through the war, he had the privilege of saving thousands of people. Do you know that he organized coal trains? Because in one of the concentration camps, Nebuch, the people were working on coals. He organized a coal train that on top were coals, and under it were hundreds of Yidden Nebuch lying there, covered by coals, smuggled out. Awesome. He smuggled out hundreds of babies, maybe thousands. But besides everything else, he had a wife and 7 children, and only one boy survived. He carried him. So then the Bova Rebbe, his son got married. So on one hand, it was beautiful. On the other hand, you can imagine how he was missing all the other children, right? It was the highest wedding I've ever seen in my whole life. High is not the word. Even that is too low. But before the chuppah, you know, a Rebbe, you go up, you give a Rebbe a piece of paper with your name, you ask him for a blessing. So there was thousands of people. There was no time for long speeches. I remember the Rebbe was sitting. I walked up to him, and he held my hand, and he says, "Chen v'chesed." Blessed me with chen v'chesed. Pierced my soul. My toes are still shivering when I remember it. Wasn't that a little information? Not a tree of knowledge. You know, I can walk up to a girl and say, "I love you, tree of knowledge. Thank you very much." I can walk up to a girl, "You know, I'd love you so much. I'd love to marry you." Another information. Thank you so much. Call me next year. Or don't call me. Someone who talks to you and it's not information. It's for real. It's a tree of life, right? Oh, it's that deep. Gewalt is that deep, you know. See, without getting involved in Israel, it's clear to me, with the extent of Peres and Rabin, the Amshn of a Rebbe would deal with the other side. Ah, God. If you would talk to them from the tree of life, they would melt away. Because the tree of knowledge has no dominion over the tree of life. So you hear, friends? So on Purim we're not learning from books, even holy books, because I don't want information on Purim. On Purim I connect myself, mamish, to the highest of the highest of the highest place in heaven. What is the snake all about? The tree of knowledge is a snake. The snake eats earth, and the snake bites the person in the soul. You know what the snake is doing? Dragging everything down. Disconnect yourself from above. Down. And you remember we were learning the snake. You think when the snake eats steak, it tastes like steak? Everything tastes like earth, like nothing, like dust. Dust. Have you ever seen people, those snake dust people? Everything is nothing. Nothing. I want you to know something. If I want to give a gift to the snake should not say it's dust. I would have to give a lot, and even then it'd still be dust. God bless you. God bless you. Listen, I'm sending to the Queen of England 1 apple and 1 piece of cake. Not even a whole cake. 1 cut piece of cake. You know what it is? It's an insult. It's dust. It's nothing. You think I, the Queen of England, need your apple and your piece of cake? You know what I'm doing on Purim? I'm sending you 1 apple and 1 piece of cake. And I want you to know Rabbi Yitzchak Berditcher would kiss everything he gets, because it's so holy. It is so holy. You think in order to show love to someone, you have to give them $2 million or a mink coat? 1 piece of cake, right? I told someone, one of my highest Purims was when my little girl Daria, my number 2 daughter, was 4 years old. So she wanted to bring me shlachmonas, but just going from one room to the other, she was hungry. She ate she ate already half the cake. She was the cutest. So till it got to me, it was just, a 3/4 eaten piece of cake. But you know something? That piece of cake still carries me. I can have $2 million and buy all the cake in the world, but where can I get this 3/4 eaten piece of cake from my daughter? On Purim I get it. Purim is the deepest. Deepest, 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 deepest. And you see what it is? On Purim it is clear to me that nothing can throw me off. Nothing in the world. And you see, on Yom Kippur, I'm standing here before God and I say, I'm sorry, I'm such a failure. I made so many mistakes, I'll have to do tshuva. On Purim, I'm not doing tshuva. I don't even bother doing tshuva. On Purim, I'm so glad that there's one God. I'm so glad that I'm a Jew, Gewalt, God. Who cares? Who cares? I have to tell you something unbelievable. It's good for some of us to know. The Heilige Ostrovtze, someone asked him, I have a neighbor who is not really 100% frum. He sent me shlachmonas. Am I permitted to eat it? Because maybe it's not kosher. So the Ostrovtse answered him and was Amalek away. Why did Mordechai and Esther initiate that you should send out items to eat? They could have said, send each other a penny, $1. Why eat? He said, if you remember, the only person who did not eat by the feast of Achashverosh, which was not kosher, was Mordechai, right? So then when all the Yidden did tshuva and they got together again, they said, send each other food. Because, let's face it today, the Yidden would say, listen, I know you were there. I can't trust your kashrus. You ate by Achashverosh's feast. The whole idea is that I trust you. It's awesome, right? I want you to know God trusts you as much as you trust others. As simple as it is. You know, sadly enough, we are so much out of trusting. And we always know what you did yesterday. Yesterday. And here I want you to know something very deep. If you learn from a book, where does the knowledge come from? Yesterday I read the book, and today I'm judging on account of what I learned yesterday, right? So your knowledge comes first and your judging comes after, right? But it's all based on a second before, right? When my knowledge comes from above, it's right the second, right? See, the tree of knowledge always looks at the person what you did yesterday. How do you know what you're doing right now, right? Maybe yesterday you were a gangster, today you're as holy as a Baal Shem Tov. I don't know. Who knows? So on Purim, it's awesome.
So on Purim we can make peace negotiations.
Halavai, we should, yeah. See what it's true also. We always talk about yesterday. It's terrible, yeah. Listen, if I would lead the peace thing, I would do the whole thing different. But anyway, let's not even talk about it. But it's a good idea. Okay, he says, I want you to know Purim, the light of Purim, which is coming down to this world, is so high. And you cannot pick up the light of Purim from a book. So I'll sit and learn. You know how I pick it up? I'm giving an apple and a piece of cake. I want you to know the deepest depths. You also have to give money to the poor. And now listen to this, how beautiful this is. Gifts to your friends and money to the poor. So Ramosh Gabrina says, all year long the poor man thinks he only give it to him because he's poor. But on poor, when he sees you giving out gifts to your friends, the poor man thinks, maybe you're giving me the money because I'm your friend. Ah. Is that deep? Gewalt, is that deep? Gewalt, is that awesome? And you see, on Purim, you have to realize on Purim, when I'm drunk, and you know, I want you to know something, I'm sure it's clear to you. What happened? Oh, you're the cutest. You know, on Purim, I really hate it, I'm sure you do. You don't get drunk and vomit all over the place, and then you think this is Purim. There's not even Tisha B'Av, it's disgusting. Do you know by the Rebbe Melech? Listen to this. This is also in Bobov. Bobov Rebbe told a story that in Bobov, by his grandfather, maybe 80 years ago, maybe 100 years ago, there was only one big barrel of beer. And one husky chassid standing there, drinking beer. And nobody can get close to the beer. So the Rebbe says to him, listen, there are other people also who want to have a glass of beer. He says, yeah, but you cannot get drunk if somebody else is drinking. So the Rebbe got very serious. He says, you know something? It's not true. If you love another person, you can be drunk from seeing somebody else drink. Purim is something else. So here on Purim, all the Rebbes tell us one thing. When you send shlachmonos to another person, you can taste what the high priest felt when he walked into the Holy of Holiest. And here, I want you to open your heart, this is the deepest. You know, holy has the opposite unholy. Beautiful has the opposite ugly. Holy of Holiest has no opposite. You know, there is something so deep. So deep. And you see, when I send you a gift, I'm not sending it to that part of you which is holy. I'm sending it to this deepest depths of you, which is the Holy of Holiest. I always tell my friends, remember, not everyone is holy, but everyone is the Holy of Holiest. That's something else. Holy of Holiest. So you hear, friends, on Yom Kippur, only the high priest walks into the Holy of Holiest. On Purim, everyone. It's unbelievable. I can be the biggest shmendrik all year long, the biggest sinner. On Purim, I take an apple and piece of cake and give it to my best friend. And at that moment, I can taste the Holy of Holiest. Okay, what is Amalek? What does he really want? Amalek wants to take away your courage to live. Amalek wants you to be sad. What happens to you if I fail 10 times? I don't have the courage to try anymore, and I'm full of sadness. How do I get out of Amalek? On Purim, gewalt to my besimcha, right? You know, when I'm drunk, you can tell me anything in the world, and I'm still laughing in your face, right? He'll tell me, hey Shlomo, you know you're the biggest failure in the world. I say, gewalt, Chaim, I'm so glad, gewalt. Why do I have the privilege to be such a failure, right? Who cares? Because how do you know what a failure is? You know, if someone says to you, you went the wrong street, are you sure it's the wrong street? How do you know? You know how often we make a wrong U-turn and we think we went the wrong way and this was the right way. This was the right way. I'll tell you something unbelievable. I was 2 weeks ago in Vienna, bisschen Schommele. We have to go back to New York. The travel agent gave us a ticket on Air Austria. It's a whole long story, it was stupid. Air Austria canceled the flight. And I have to be in New York. So you think it's terrible, right? So they put us on TWA, and it makes a stop, it's long enough. So I'm a failure, right? Everything is wrong. So we're sitting on the plane, and in front of us is a young lady, very cute young lady. We start talking to her. And I was going to New York and send a Shomele to Toronto, but I personally had to go to Seattle. You know, I speak German perfectly. So where are you going? To Seattle. Yeah, unbelievable. I'm going to Seattle also. What are you doing in Seattle? She says, you know, I'm not Jewish, but I have a Jewish boyfriend. And I'm going to Seattle, and I want very much to convert, but I don't know anybody, and he doesn't know anybody. So here our mama's sitting there, right? So you will tell me I was supposed to go on Air Austria, and it's a mistake. The way the worship was leading the world, right? What do we know, right? Imagine I would have missed meeting that girl. So I was in Seattle. She already came with her boyfriend till Sunday morning to learn. He's cute like sugar. And I introduced him already to the whole Chaver in Seattle. It's just like Like everything is in motion already. Unbelievable, right? Okay, now, when you are sad, even what you understand, you don't understand it fully. Because when you're sad, your heart is closed. How much can you understand with your head without your heart? On Purim, when Mamish, I'm an open vessel. And the way I understand what Yiddishkeit is, what God is, what God wants of me, the way I understand it on Purim, you know. I can fast 10,000 times. It doesn't compare to what I understand on Purim. God, you know. You see, the closest I can get to taste the redemption of the world is on Purim. I want you to know something awesome. Do you know on Purim, yes, you have to be so drunk that you should not know the difference between Haman and Mordechai, right? The Heilige Woke, Reb Nachman would walk around all day Purim, and he would sing Bochum, and blessed is Haman, blessed is Haman. You see, because when you are connected to the highest place, everything looks different. You don't know, right? You don't know where all the destruction leads to. Ultimately. Okay, if you remember, they knew that after 70 years, remember Purim was after the destruction of the first temple. And the prophets told them, after 70 years, you go back. The 70 years were over, and they didn't go back. Because they thought the 70 years begin from the destruction of the temple. But the 70 years begin from when the kingdom of the house of David was ended. I'm sorry, it's the other way around. The kingdom of King David, the house of King David ended. And 70 years later we didn't go back because the Holy Temple was destroyed later. But anyway, we didn't go back. So Achashverosh made this big feast celebrating that the Jews will never go back to Israel. How many Jews showed up? Heartbreaking, right? I want you to know something, the Zohar says, whatever it took in the second temple, 2,000 years to assimilate, but the first temple after 70 years they were on the same level. Completely assimilated. I mean, can you imagine how? No character. Achashverosh makes a feast celebrating that the Jews will never go back to Israel, and the only person not showing up is Mordechai. But do you believe? You're licking the world, right? You're also celebrating, I want to be part of the Persian culture. So what does God do? To want to wipe us out. You know, we always think they want to wipe us out, but we are too Jewish. No. I'm going there and celebrating with them that we Jews are at the end, and then they want to kill me. Unbelievable, right? You know, in Germany they thought, in Poland there's anti-Semitism, but in Germany we're cultured. We walk around without a yarmulke, and I call myself Hans and Fritz instead of Moshe and Yankel, right? And they love me. No. Anti-Semitism began in Germany. Now listen to this. What does Haman want to tell us, Achashverosh? Give up on going back to Israel. Give up already. It won't happen. And you know what Israel is not only the land of Israel. Mamash, I have a dream, I'll go somewhere, I'll be somewhere. So here comes Amalek and says it'll never happen. Face it. It's over. So you know what happened on Purim? Mamash, a great light was shining into the lowest Jew had given up 1,000 times on himself. And suddenly, Mamash was clear to them. It will happen soon. It will happen soon. One more very important thing, then we'll have to make a little stop. You know, there were a lot of miracles happening to us which were outrageous, crossing the Red Sea. When God changed the very way of nature, Purim is mamish like a Hollywood story, right? Here's a beautiful girl, Achashverosh likes her, Haman wants to hang her uncle. If you wouldn't know it's a holy story, you would read the story and think, it's a third-rate novel, right? You know what it is? It was all covered up, right? Deepest miracles. And here I want you to know, and I want you to open your hearts. I like somebody have a gift. Here you have it. I love somebody very much. You know how much energy I put into the wrapping? All the miracles were just open miracles. God gives it to us as a gift. The miracles on Purim were all wrapped up. We didn't see anything. It looked like a little Hollywood story, right? Ah, God, was it deep. You know what we do when we want to give our little children gifts? We put it under the pillow, right? Like the wrapping is not enough. I want to be under the pillow. Everything is hidden. Everything is hidden. And here I want you to know something, deepest depth. Can you ever tell a person you love how much you think of them? When I talk to you, then you know I'm talking to you, right? I'm thinking of you, I'm talking to you. How can I tell another person how often I think of you? I can tell you, but how do you know, right? I want you to know something. It was so clear to me. I'm a lot of times in Vienna. Now, Baruch Shema and children are a little bit bigger. Whenever I go to Vienna, I would ask Neshoma and Dari, because they have special factories for children's wear, what color dress you want me to bring you? Oh, one of that red, one pink, always. Do you know, every store I passed by in Vienna, I was looking for a red and pink dress, right? Most probably in my heart, I bought 2,000 dresses. But in actuality, I just bought 2 dresses. But when am I giving my children those 2,000 dresses, which I didn't really buy? This is Shlachmanis. Not face to face. All the gifts I want to give you, you'll never see. I can only give it to you in 1/2 a piece of cake. And I want you to know something deeper. When will I ever know how many miracles God is doing for us? You think we have any idea how many miracles God is doing for us? Every split second. On Purim, when we are drunk, we get a little taste of all the miracles God is doing to us when we don't know. It's awesome. And you see what it is? Amalek wants you to know you're a failure because God doesn't give a damn about you. Don't you see God doesn't help you? You're trying so hard. Suddenly on Purim, it's Not only God is helping me all the time, He's doing the biggest miracles for me. And all the failures was Gewalt learning, was the deepest learning. Where would I be without my failures? Where would we be without our failures? And I want you to know something else. You know, when I imagine like this, I like this girl very much, I take her out. I have to give her a gewalt good time. I bought tickets for the opera. And it's crazy, I'm taking her to a Chinese restaurant. You know what the problem is? Yeah, I like her, we're good friends, but nothing serious. When I love a girl the most, I don't have to take her to the opera. I can sit on a bench on the street for 100 years, and it's the most beautiful thing in the world, right? You see, when we are not that close to God, then God has to make unbelievable miracles for us. On Purim, when we are so close to God, it's an apple and an orange. Everything is normal. All the miracles are garmented in a this world way. But Gewalt is so deep, Gewalt is so deep. Won't you know something? The story of Purim took 9 years. You know this? Achashverosh had a big feast. Vashti didn't show up. And she was beheaded. He was looking for a wife. 9 years later, Haman came to him and wants to kill the Jews. And I tell you something. You see what it is? If you want to know God's miracles, if you look from above, you see the whole 9 years, right? On Purim, it gives me a taste of the whole history of us Jews. The whole history. How many miracles? I don't want to sound coarse, but I just wanted you to know. Maybe some of you don't know. This is crazy, right? Achashverosh says to Vashti to come without garments and show her beauty. It doesn't make sense, right? I mean, there were sophisticated people in those days also. You know why this happened? Because Vashti, I don't know, you know, again without sounding terrible. Anybody who knows about concentration camps knows that never, the men were treated terribly, but the women, from the Nazi women were treated, 2 million times worse. You know what Vashti did every Shabbos? That was her biggest pleasure. She would collect Jewish girls, take off their clothes, and with whips, guards, run them through the streets of Shushan. Unbelievable. So this was her punishment. Awesome, right? I don't want to tell you what else Vashti did to the girl. She was absolutely like in Auschwitz, those guards, right? And you see what it is? Everything, when you look at it, you see the way God is paying back goodness. Now listen to this. Why was Mordechai privileged to save all of Israel? This is much beautiful. Esther is on the court. Esther doesn't belong there. She's a holy woman, and the court is the lowest, right? She was there for 9 years. And Mordechai went every day to visit her. You think Mordechai didn't have a cold maybe one day, or was sick one day, he was tired one day? Didn't miss one day. So heaven says, you don't miss one day to take care of one human being who needs you. You are the one to redeem Israel. You know, a lot of us been doing a few good things and we stop a little bit and do it again. Non-stop. Non-stop. awesome, no? You know what it is? We from time to time have a little Jewish attack, right? I give $100 million for Israel. Who knows what? The question is, in your daily life, from day to day, Purim is, Mordechai is going every day to her. And Purim basically is an ordinary day. On Purim I can make phone calls, I can eat herring, I can do anything in the world. But Geval, what a day. What a day. The question is, are you a Jew every second? I want you to know, when you read the Megillah, I'm sure you know this, you're not permitted to miss one word. And even if you don't understand about the sound, because the truth is you'll never know until you know the whole story. I want you to know I will never know my own story until I know what it did last lifetime, what it did the lifetime before. Purim, when I listen to the Megillah, even if it's read in Hebrew and I don't understand it, I get a taste who I am. I get a taste what I have to do. You know what Haman said to Mordechai? Let's kill all the Jews. God doesn't need them. You don't need them. The saddest thing of us, we look at a lot of people, we think who needs them. I mean, what would be the world if this person would not be alive? It would also be a good world. On Purim, it's clear to me that God needs every human being. Every human being. And you need all the evil in the world is all the killing. When I kill somebody, what am I telling them? Nobody needs you, right? You're not needed in this world. And Purim, the opposite. This mom is so special. And you see, when I send you a piece of cake and an apple, you know what I'm telling you? Not a cute little gift. The world couldn't exist without you. I couldn't live without you. When I give $1 to a poor man, it's not so you have a cup of coffee. To let you know where would the world be without you standing here on my corner. You know, the street wouldn't be so beautiful if you wouldn't be standing here on a corner. And you think you're downhearted. How could I ever thank you for giving me the privilege of standing on my corner? You know, really, one of my best parts of Mordechai, of Purim, is when I take my two daughters. You know, there's a lot of homeless people on Broadway. One girl takes one side of Broadway, and the other girl takes the other side of Broadway, and I go back and forth. And there was one black brother says to me, he says, they all know me by name, you know. He says, hey, Shlomo, he says, I reckon you spoil your daughters. I reckon. Friends, I want you to know how much God is spoiling us. And what a privilege to spoil another human being. What a privilege to spoil our children. And what a privilege to be connected to a higher place in heaven. A different place. Deepest place in the world. Okay, let's sing one more good song. Friends, I'm blessing you to have a good Purim, a Gewalt Purim, a fire Purim. And don't let anybody tell you it's a minor holiday. It's not. The Baal Shem Tov says it is the utmost, the ultimate. You know why the world doesn't celebrate it properly? They think it's Homontaschen. I'll tell you something. I was invited somewhere in a city, and the television of the city came, and they interviewed the president of the synagogue and humbled me what Purim is all about. Don't want to say anything bad. So here the president says, Purim, lot of fun. Lot of fun, yeah. Homontaschen, yeah. And listen, imagine you're not Jewish and you hear that by Jews it's a holiday because they eat Homontaschen. You know, you think, I mean, really. I knew they're stupid, but idiots like this, you know. I was ashamed. You know what Purim is? It's the deepest. The Pshischa says, every yontif you can maybe make it without being deep. And Purim, when you wipe out Amalek, you know what Amalek is? Everything is dust, shallow. It's nothing, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's also nothing. It's also nothing. Have you ever seen people that read the New York Times? They read, let's say, 2 million children died somewhere from hunger. Turn the page. Yeah, what else? Another page. Snakes. Nothing. Nothing. Well, you know something else. You know, do you know who Haman was? Haman was a slave. You know this? Mordechai bought Haman on the slave market. And he saw that Haman has a good head. He was talented. So Mordechai paid for his education. He adopted him. Haman grew up in Mordechai's house. He paid for his education. And then the moment he became a big shot, he wanted everybody to bow down to him. Mordechai comes, he says to Mordechai, why don't you bow down to me? Mordechai says, you were a slave, I gave you freedom. I should bow down to you? So he says, there's no other way, I have to kill Mordechai. But if I kill already Mordechai, let's kill all the 10 million Jews. What kind of a person is that? But you know what the end of the story is? The end of the story is, the Talmud says the grandchildren of Haman went to Bnei Barak and they were teaching Torah. I want you to know, we're learning it on Shabbos. We are cursing Haman, who wants to wipe out all the Jews. Say, Brother Haman, I'm going to curse you. Your grandchildren are going to have beards and payas. Gewalt. It's for real. I don't know. You know, I'm in Germany a lot of times. You know how many young people are converting in Germany? Not to be believed. Shabbos had told them a few stories. Friends, you know, sometimes cruelty comes to a point. I want you to know something awesome. The world knows about Nero, Kaiser from Rome, who burned Rome, right? What did he do after he burned Rome? According to history, he got crazy and committed suicide. But the Gemara was there. He realized, if I can destroy what I did myself, he went to Yerushalayim and he converted. And you know who his grandson was? Reb Meir. Do you know the two greatest rabbis in the Talmud is Reb Meir and Reb Akiva? And just to enlighten you further, the day Reb Meir passed away was on Pesach Sheni. The day when we celebrate that every person is given another chance. That means even Nero Kaiser, the lowest pagan, the most cruel person in the world, is also given a chance. It's not to be believed, right? And you see, we always think whatever I did is wrong. Maybe whatever I did was right. Maybe at that moment was no other way. What do I know? You see, when I'm connected to above, the way they look at me from above is different eyes, different schedule. I think I was late. No, you were on time. I have to tell you something crazy. I once had this dentist, and he says to me, if you ever come one more time late, I'm sorry, you cannot be my patient. L'chaim. Listen to this. Okay, Mamish, I'm trying my utmost to be on time. I'm leaving my house early, I'm looking for a cab, I couldn't find a cab. Then, Mamish, I'm telling you, the cab had a flat tire. I'm coming exactly 45 minutes late. I ring the bell by the dentist and I go in and I think, as I walk in, two people walk out, sophisticated. I'm coming into the office, it's Tisha B'Av. Those two people were gangsters. Mamish. They walked in to the dentist, took out a knife, and began cutting the throat of the person who was lying on the chair. And they said, we give you 10 minutes to give us all the money. And the whole time the knife was in there. If I would have been on time, I would have been that patient. Not that I wished on somebody else. So I can sit there and say I was late. Gewalt, master of the world. Gewalt, was I on time? Gewalt, was I on time? So the dentist says to me, from now on, just come whenever you want to. That's time. Do you know that every Yontif ends at sunset, right? Purim is till the next morning. Because if you really, what do you know about time, right? Because the clock says it's over. When I want to know if it's over, I look at my clock. Don't look at the clock. Keep your eyes up. Look up to the highest place. It's not over yet. It's just beginning. Just beginning. Thank you. I have to enlighten you and myself also just one thing. God tells us, keep Shabbos, right? Do we have any idea, humanly speaking, without sounding blasphemous, how much God thought until he decided we should keep Shabbos, right? You know, every mitzvah, every word of the Torah, you know how much God put in? So on Shavuos we receive the Torah. But when do we receive everything which was going on in heaven? On Purim. So on Purim, I receive the Torah from heaven, not the way it comes down to this world. I'm receiving God's Torah. I can tell you all the pink dresses I wanted to buy for Neshama and Dari. Everything God wants to give us. And the world is too small to take it. You know, when you love somebody, you want to give them everything. But you can't, because you're just a human being. When I send you the apple, I'll give you everything. Amish everything. Just remember, Rabbi Yitzchak was kissing every apple, every piece of cake. The Heilige Rabbi Yitzchak God. And bless you is a good poem. And go out. What? Thinking, bless each other was the best poem. It's nothing like poem, you know. The first time I heard the Megillah reading is when I heard the Heilige Baba reading the Megillah. That's so simple. You know, someone says, I read the Megillah, left me cold. It's a stupid story. You didn't hear the Baba Rebbe reading the Megillah? When he reads the Megillah, every word is 2 million heavenly explosions. Every word. And you see, on Purim, I'm not asking anybody for forgiveness. Because even forgiveness isn't close enough. When I give you an apple, it's the deepest. Because when I give you the apple, I give you my heart, my soul, my life. It's deeper than anything in the world, right? It's everything. Because you know what God gives us on Purim? Everything. You see, on Yom Kippur I say, give me a good year, give me a parnasa, give me this. There's all details. Everything is on Purim. Everything. You see, on Purim I'm not learning, because when I'm learning this page and not the other page. On Purim, God gives me the whole Torah. The whole Torah while I'm drunk. friends, give a big Yesher Koach to Rebbetzin Ela and to Brother Steve and to Brother Phil who made the video and to everyone. And good Purim, good Purim, good Purim.
Good Purim!
That's it. I don't want to tell you now the whole story, but I'm sure Soleil will tell you the story one day. But good Purim, you don't want to say good Purim. Good Purim. Gotta yell good Purim, like. Because Amalek wants to tell you that you are weak. You can't make it. So you summon all your strength and says, Mamash, really, Brother Amalek, Gewalt am I strong. Gewalt am I strong. Gewalt. Shabbos geht Yontif geht Purim. Let me tell you something. This is the deepest, yeah? I want you to open your heart. On one hand, we have to share everything, give everything away. Okay, I got married yesterday. This morning I asked my wife, where's the wedding band? She says, last night those rabbis spoke about giving everything away. So the first poor man I saw gave him my wedding band. How does it sound to you? Why not? Because the wedding band was a gift from me to her. She has no right to give it away. The Holy Land is the deepest gift God gave us. He gave it to us, for our children and grandchildren. We were driven out, we came back. For my part, as I said 100 times, the whole world is invited to be there. The whole world is invited to be there and live peacefully and happily. Nobody stops anybody. But if someone wants to come there and, you see, they don't want a little peace. They want to drive us out from the land. They're saying it openly. If they would say, just give us a little peace and we'll be happy, we would have given to them a long time ago. I want you to know something. This whole thing about Palestinian refugees is the biggest fake in the world. Israel wanted to build apartment houses for them, condominiums, billions. We were ready to give them beautiful houses. They don't want to. They want to live in dirt in order to put it on us. Facts of life. You know what's going on in Israel? I'm just coming there 3 weeks ago. Some of us know Yeshua has 11 children. You know how much Tillim the mother has to pray every day that her children should come back home? Do we deserve that? Do we deserve to live in a land when terrorists walk around with knives? And you know what it is? The world can stop it in 2 seconds, but they don't want to. You know why the world doesn't want to stop it? I'll tell you why. First of all, the world doesn't really care, right? But I'll tell you something else. We Jewish people are living proof that there is one God. That the words of the prophets are for real. So now, if we have to give away half of the land, that means it was just a fake. It really wasn't a gift from God. Golda Meir and who knows if your generals got together and Begin was a terrorist, they got the land and now they have to give it back. It had nothing to do with God. I have to tell you something awesome, friends, and I shared it with a lot of people. During the 6-Day War, one of my friends who was a very high officer in a tank, all the tanks are rushing down to the Suez. And suddenly, he's rushing through an Arab village, and suddenly something went wrong with the machine. The tank stops. He has choice to go out and fix it, but then he knows he'll be killed because in the middle of the marketplace, Arabs, he's all alone. Or he can sit in the tank and just die from the heat. So he took a chance, he goes out. A young Arab walks up to him. He says, I'm an engineer, can I help you fix it? Not to be believed. So he says to him, Aren't you supposed to be my enemy? So he says to him, I'll tell you, if it would be a war between Jews and Arabs, I'm an Arab. This war is against God. I don't want to be against God. This war is against God. Against God. For 2,000 years we are waiting. It was never their land. They were living there, it was not their land. They never had a government. Anybody who knows history knows they were living there, right? I live in New York, so therefore, I'll tell you something. How would it sound to you if everybody would see America give it back to the Indians? You'd laugh, right? And the Indians really have a right. They were living here. It was their government. Nobody would have the chutzpah to tell Brother Clinton, you're so eager, Israel should give back a little land. Give at least a few of the states back to the Indians. Why do they have to sit in a reservation and live there like dogs? Why did they give them back Wall Street? Why not? So he will say, because a few years ago we bought it from the Indian and didn't know how much it was, right? The world is crazy. You see what it is, what it boils down? They really want to show us that we Jews have no right to have a homeland. Basically, it's still the last chapter of Auschwitz. I told all my friends, you know, the Germans, at the time of the Nazis, when I was a little boy, on every Jewish house was signs, Juden nach Palästina. Jews go to Palestine. That means the Nazis admitted that Israel belongs to us. And now there's a new thing, even Israel doesn't belong to us. And I'll tell you one more thing. If you believe that war can take away a country, then we had a war, we took it away now. It's ours. If you believe that war cannot take away, then it still belongs to us from the Holy Temple. I mean, make up your mind. If war can change the ownership of a land, then it belongs to us today. If it can, it belongs to us from the Holy Temple. It's crazy, right? You see, it's not only, you see, it is not, the question is not to give them a piece of land. Anybody who's in Israel knows they don't want a little piece of Israel. They still yell, death to the Jews. Death to the Jews. And you know what's so crazy? We are persecuting them. They are persecuting us. I'll tell you something else. Do you know how much patience the Israeli soldiers have? They are standing there for years and they throw stones at them. They're not shooting back. You know, I know America is the best country in the world. You take 1,000 soldiers standing by the White House and hoodlums come and throw stones at them. What's going to be with them? They won't be there tomorrow. They will not be there tomorrow. You see what it is? I don't want to mention their name in the synagogue. He made it very clear. He says, we, the PLO, are making a deal with the Jews. In the meantime, our brothers, the Hamas, will keep on killing. And he left the choice to his own Chaver PLO. If you want to belong to PLO, you can work on both sides. You can be a policeman for PLO, but you can also kill Jews. They asked the police, which are supposed to, from the PLO, what are you doing when you see somebody who wants to kill a Jew? Will you stop them? They said, no. I don't know if you saw it on television. They interviewed some Arab kids. They asked them, if you see someone wants to kill a Jew, what are you going to do? They say, we can't say anything because if we would stop them, we will be killed as informers. And I have to tell you, Paul, one more thing, which I'm sure you're aware of. They're not terrorizing only us Jews. They're terrorizing each other. I want to tell you one thing. It is even too cruel to tell you, but just to give you a taste. I had the privilege of being together with the Israeli army during the war in Lebanon. And if you know the way the PLO, the Muslims were treating the Christians in Lebanon, is not to be described. So when we were there, I was sitting there playing for soldiers, and in between singing and walking around in the city, and the Arabs come out. I never got so many gifts on one day. Every little Arab came out and brought me gifts, because we are so glad you're here. But listen to this. One Arab family invited me for coffee to their house. Then he says to me, let me tell you, our mother was 80 years old, and the PLO felt that she is helping the Jews. One night, 4 cars came. They tied my mother between the 4 cars and drove away. So these are the people who should make peace with?